Okay, everybody, with this week's assignment, it is pretty much going to wrap up the first half of our course and set you guys up in the position to create a very compelling midterm project, which ultimately is going to lead to your final project. So, as we move forward in the class, rather than working on individual images, we will be working on a cohesive set of images that are all related to that idea or that narrative that you put out for us in the midterm project. So, getting back to our assignment here, this is going to be Module 7 that we are offering feedback on. And the two different things that we're doing is one abstract photograph and then one photograph that breaks cliche. So to get things started here, we have Janae's image. She tried to break cliche by taking a photograph of a flower that's lost its petals versus all of the images that have flowers that are gorgeous and have all these healthy petals up against bright blue skies. And certainly I think that works here. In fact, it's kind of almost unique in the sense that the leaves that are just behind the petals there almost look like they're flower leaves. So for me, that kind of looks pretty neat. The one thing I will say here, Janae, is just maybe if you had used an f-stop that was larger, so you were at an f-stop of 5.7, maybe go to an f-stop of 8 or 11. I think that would have let you get just this little part of the flowers right there in focus because they're just a little bit out of focus, and that's really a function of that very small depth of field that you are working with in this image. But nevertheless, really nice shot, like the idea there. And then your abstract image, some sort of texture, I don't know whether this is cloth or fabric or something like that, but certainly the spirit of the assignment is captured here, really just trying to focus in on an abstract subject that has the external or surrounding context cut off or taken away from it. So nice job here with this one too, Janae. I think you're on the mark here with both of these, and should be in good shape moving into the midterm. So look forward to seeing what you have to offer for us. And next up we have Timothy's work. And so for his abstraction, it looks like he's used the pillars of I believe this is the bridge over at Forest Lawn. And what I really like about it is sort of the shadowing that's also going on here that really kind of gives this a wicked sense of depth, and also starts to create even more patterns and shapes within the image that has this really interesting rhythm to it or repetition of pattern. So pretty neat shot. I like it, and certainly exactly what I was looking for. And then for the image that breaks cliche, he's taking a picture in a mirror, doing a selfie, but rather than taking a picture of himself, he is focusing in on the detail work that is surrounding the mirror. And again, pretty neat idea, and I like the idea, especially because all of this detail work does have kind of a fascinating or interesting finish to it, where it looks like it's copper and it's starting to go green in some areas, and it's copper color in others. I wonder if, again, we go in and pull your file info down. I see your f-stop's 5.6. Perhaps we, do a different exposure where maybe that's 11, and then we can just see that you are actually part of this picture, because the background kind of does go so abstract that you can't even really tell it's a self-portrait, which may be the intention here, and certainly understand that too. But just thinking about different options here. So Timothy, looks like you are in good shape here, so keep up the good work, and look forward to seeing what you have for us at the beginning of next week. So next up we have Hannah's work. So Hannah's doing a little parody, which again I really enjoy. So we've all seen the images on Facebook of people's feet or people's toes in the sand. So here she's gone ahead and kind of did a play on that using a Halloween skeleton, or I'm assuming it's a Halloween skeleton, as sort of the subject in here, and putting it on grass rather than beach here. So I like the thought. I like sort of the playful whimsy of it. I think it's interesting. And, again, I don't want to make it sound like everything we do in photography has to be so perfectly, wonderfully serious. And in fact, some of the best bodies of work in the photography world are ones that have sort of a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek aspect to them. So this one certainly has that type of feeling to it, and I like it as your cliche breaker. And then the second shot, again, I really like the fact that you've gotten in super tight onto this subject. I guess in the end, it's some kind of something in the garden. I don't know what it is, but the spirit of the abstraction is definitely there. I'm almost wondering if we even just go in a little bit further and just focus in on sort of this deterioration or scratch in it. Then the image really just becomes about color and shape and form and texture. But nevertheless, really good job here, and certainly enjoy what you put up for us this week. So looking forward to seeing your midterm. And next up we have Maurice's shot. So in some ways Maurice is kind of doing the same thing. He's playing on all of the typical shots that people take in front of the sign, especially when they're on campus for the first time. So rather than doing it in bright sunlight, he's kind of done it in the darkness of night. It's kind of dark and shadowy, and just very much different than what we typically would expect out of one of those signs of the front of the school. And then next up for the abstraction photograph, I really like what you did here. You've really cut off all of the external or surrounding context. So we really don't know what this is. And it forces you to come in a little bit closer to the photograph. And I think when you get a little bit closer, you get the idea that it is some sort of logo embedded in some sort of textural thing. So it feels like it's cloth. And then obviously after reading your reflection, we see that this is a logo that's on a towel. So nice job with this, and I even like the kind of placement within the frame, that it's not dead center, it's kind of off to the side. So good job with both these, and look forward to seeing what you have in the upcoming week. Thanks. So for Deodric's abstraction, looks like we have a Gatorade label here. You've gone in and gotten really tight on it. And one of the things I noticed right away is sort of the wrinkle in the bottle, which is probably something that we typically take for granted when we're handling this. I might even make this a little bit tighter and do something like that or something like that. Again, with the idea that we're just cutting off some of this external information for the viewer to give us a little different view or different perspective on something. And then your cliche shot. Didn't see a reflection attached to your submission, so I'm not really sure what the cliche is that you're breaking here. Although I do like the shot a lot, a beautiful small depth of field image that our eye is definitely attracted to the writing on this label here, and the background of the fortune cookie is out of focus. But nonetheless, we can still, even though it's out of focus, we can still kind of tell what it is. So neat depth of field shot. I maybe if we're kind of breaking the cliche of food photography, I'm not sure what the case might be here, but nevertheless, really well executed photograph otherwise. So Good job here, Deodric. And next up we have Matthew's images. And here's Matthew's shot of the abstraction. Really wants us to kind of focus in on the leaves and how they're kind of different than sort of the wider shots of leaves. You know, again, I may even think about getting super close in here. I realize the quality of the image sort of deteriorates, but you know, something like this, focusing in on the edges of the leaves or something like that might perhaps even be that much more of an abstraction. I wonder about this image. I wonder if you're just showing us what a cliche image would be, because this image does kind of feel a little bit cliche to me. And, you know, again, in this instance, I'm probably thinking the answer to breaking the cliche is simply, you know, getting in super tight or even focusing in on something like this, which I think that's a pretty compelling shot right there. So interesting submissions here, Matthew. I'm hoping I'm reading this correctly. It's not super clear in your reflection, but nonetheless, I like what you did this week, and looking forward to see what you have for us for the upcoming midterm. So next up, we have D'Angelo's work, and his first shot, the cliche image that he's breaking, just playing, again, maybe humorously off the notion of people falling asleep, doing their homework or working on stuff. So again, I think needs to be emphasized here again for everybody that we can use humor in our photography, and we can be sort of tongue-in-cheeky with our images, and I think this certainly falls in line with that notion there. The thing that kind of fascinates me is sort of the dirty shelves over here, and even just the big box of Lucky Charms. It's not even just the normal size Lucky Charms, it's the giant size. And then for your abstraction, you went in and shot up a tight shot of the front of the box, which, yeah, I think that works. But, you know, again, I'm even having more fun with it, and maybe doing something like that as even a better abstraction that kind of forces you to really figure out what it is for a second or two. So good job here, and look forward to seeing what you got for us in the upcoming week. So next up, we have Dominic's work, and the first shot is him doing the break the cliche, and I really love this image. Just kind of almost the removal of all the color to it. It's very dark, and it, you know, it kind of feels like, you know, an old creepy haunted house type of look. And I love the fact sort of you're dancing on the edges of being too dark, yet we can still see all of the details within the light, and especially all this sort of textural element in both the wall and the makeup of the lamp. So really great shot. Love this shot a lot. Love to see just, you know, maybe a whole body of work of images like this that just look very muted and again kind of almost haunted. So I like that one a lot. And then the abstraction, yeah, kind of cool, although, you know, it's probably going to be a continual theme for me here. Maybe I'm, you know, even focusing in on something like this, just the hand in the dart, or even the hand in the shadow, something like that. You know, again, just the idea of an abstraction is to get the viewer to kind of look a little bit deeply into the photograph and have them spend a little bit of time sort of analyzing it and trying to figure out what exactly it is. So it gives the viewer a little bit more time interacting with your photo. So good job here this week, Dominic, and look forward to seeing what you got for us next week. So next up we have Sydney's work, and we've got the abstraction here. Interesting shot, little play off of shadows. Looks like it's some sort of desktop type of thing. And, you know, again, it just forces the viewer to look at the image a little bit longer, sort of try and figure out what it is, and engage the mind a little bit more. So good job with that. And then the cliche shot, a shot in the garden. I really love the repetition of vases and even the beautiful light that's coming in there. Not necessarily sure that this totally breaks cliche, but maybe something like this or something like this, that's maybe focusing in on the pots more so than the flowers, which typically would be your cliched element in there. But really neat light. I would love the light coming in here. That looks beautiful. Got some palm trees. I wonder where that is even. So let's just look at one little thing here. Creation date, April 27, 2017. So again, Sydney, and I just can't emphasize it enough to everybody in the class here. You guys need to be making new photos every single week. You cannot submit images that you created either before this class started or images that were used for other assignments. When we get to our final project, I will allow you to use images that you created in the class earlier in the semester, but clearly this was not created specifically for that assignment, Sydney. So I just want everybody, and yourself included, although I don't want to pick on you here, but everybody, please, you need to be shooting new stuff every single week. So anyhow, that is that with that one. And if you have any questions here, Sydney, on this, certainly let me know. Otherwise, look forward to seeing your work in the upcoming midterm. And make sure it's new work. And the next up, we have Victoria's images. So here is our cliche shot. And I do like what you're doing here, although I, again, maybe even might take this one step further and think about doing something like that in your image and just, including a lot of negative space, that empty sky space, along with just sort of like a little hint of the trees there. But certainly I think you got the idea. And then your abstract shot looks like a donut or some sort of pastry here. Again, I like this a lot. I like the fact that you're in super close. I love the textural quality to the sugar grains also in there. I think that is particularly appealing to me. It kind of looks, the lighting in here is kind of interesting. I just want to go in and check out something here. Okay. Anyhow, I think if we were just to cut off a little bit of that plate, I almost wonder, I don't know, maybe not. But, I'm always just thinking with everyone and all of your images, I almost always think tighter is better, simpler is better, cleaner is better. So just try and do what I'm doing here. Whenever you take your images, just look at them really zoomed in and give them sort of one extra tight eyes view on it, so you can really get an idea of what it might look like with sort of all of the other exterior elements cropped out of it. One last thing here, Victoria, that I do want to point out, and this seems to be a struggle with you every single week. So this week you submitted these images as PNG files. So I'm looking for everything to be submitted as as JPEG files. You've been submitting them as PSD, which are Photoshop files, and now we've got PNGs here. So here's what you need to do. Go File, Save As, and then in your Save As file, I'm just going to put this on my desktop. In the pull-down menu here, just pull that down to a JPEG. So just change that, and then you should have your image. and you'll get another window that comes up like this. Just hit OK on that, and you're all set. So please, if you're still struggling with this or have any questions, definitely get in touch with me, because it does seem to be a pattern here going on the last bunch of assignments for you. So I really need you to submit these as JPEGs. So that will do it for our reviews this week. As I said, we've got our midterm project coming up here. So I really want you guys to spend a lot of time thinking about this. This is going to be a major part of your grades for the semester. You know, these assignments, I really look at them as opportunities for you guys to kind of work out problems and, you know, experiment a little bit and refine your work. But when we get to the midterms and the finals, these are the places that you really need to shine with your work. So everything we've been talking about in all of these feedback videos, you should now begin to apply in this midterm project. And again, the midterm project is going to be the start of your final project. In other words, we're setting up the groundwork for the rest of the images that you're going to take throughout the semester. We are going to be working on this project then for the next 6 modules. So make sure you pick something that you are really fond of or happy to be around or find is really important or interesting or compelling. Don't you know, punt the ball and just do something that, you know, is cliche, which is obviously the thing that we were talking about here in this module. So as always, if anybody has any questions about this, especially about how it should be submitted, please let me know. Reminders, you need to shoot new stuff for this. You need to submit it exactly the way it is written up in the assignment, and there will be no late submissions for this. With this being worth so much, if you do have a late submission, unfortunately I'm going to not be able to take that, and also you'll end up with a 0 for it, which pretty much is going to put you in a very, very bad position for the rest of the semester here. So please plan ahead, get out there, do the work. Looks like we're going to have some really nice weather for the next few days, so I see no reason why you guys should not succeed with this project. So with that, wish you all good luck and a good week of shooting, and we'll talk to you next week.